Today on the What If Brigade, I want to talk about how Gandalf in The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings books is stingy with magic. Now, I used to read these books every few years, but I'm going off of memory here, so if I forget an instance of magic, a spell, or I get the details wrong, I want you to correct me in the comments because memory only works so well after so many years. I first started to think about this actually when I picked up this role-playing book. I've never used this role-playing book in terms of actually role-playing, but I take items from it all the time. This inspires a ton of my magic items, but it has a description of Gandalf the Grey, and he's really powerful. And as an adult, and as I get more into the lore, read the Silmarillion, I realize that yeah, he's got to be pretty powerful. I mean, he went toe to toe with a Balrog. He's got a lot more magic than we see in the books. In the books, I think the only spells that we really see him repeat are things having to do with fireworks, okay, and he makes his staff light up. And after he gets the elven sword, Glamdring, oftentimes he doesn't bother having his staff light up. He just uses the sword that lights up when orcs are around. He just relies on it. And that's really the essence of Gandalf's personality. Gandalf never uses magic when there are other options available. He is incredibly stingy with magic. Magic is his last resort, the thing that he uses when he is trapped and cannot get out of a situation, or he's facing a foe that possesses powerful magic. Again, like when you think about his common spells, okay, like fireworks that he entertains hobbits with, and he lights up his staff. Good, that's great, but it's not powerful magic. I think one of the premier magical spells that we see Gandalf use is when he turns out the lights in the Goblin Cave in The Hobbit. He basically turns off their fires. And then, if I remember correctly, he actually attacks the Goblin King with his sword. He doesn't use magic, even though a ranged attack would be incredibly practical at that particular moment. Now, Extinguish Fire is probably not a high-level spell for a wizard who concentrates on fire, like Gandalf. But, that's what he uses. And then when they escape the Misty Mountains, they end up some trees, surrounded by orcs. The orcs are getting axes, getting ready to burn down the trees, all kinds of things. So he starts turning pine cones into fireballs and blasting them. And he prepares a big spell for when he thinks that they're going to be overwhelmed. He's going to jump down and just kill as many of the orcs as he possibly can. And then the eagles come along and they take them and fly away. But there again, remember, he doesn't use those spells until they're just absolutely surrounded by orcs. And even when, other than, okay, the acorns, starting things on fire is probably one of the most powerful spells that we see Gandalf use. It's really kind of, that is one of his more powerful spells. I think he lights up a chamber in Moria, and he probably uses spells in his battle with the Balrog, but we don't see that. That happens, Balrog versus Gandalf, mostly off screen. But yeah, not a lot of magic. And I think this is really very much in keeping with Gandalf's character. He has a lot of empathy for other creatures. And his purpose, in terms of what it says in this book, he's one of the Istari, and he's sent to basically help counter Sauron's influence in Middle-earth. But he's not supposed to dominate the other creatures. He's supposed to do that without creating undue influence himself. And in that, Gandalf excels. He's just really good at not using his magic. He will get a fancy horse to travel really far instead of, using magical methods of communications. So he uses shadow facts, travel really far and fast, instead of, magic communications. Unless he has to. When he's stuck in the tower, captured by Saruman, he does use magic communications because he can't use anything else. But again, he's using magic as the last possible resort. And this kind of, I think this is partly Gandalf's character, but I also think this suggests that in the world of Middle-earth, either magic is at least somewhat dangerous, or there is a limited supply. So he is conserving his magic at all times in case he meets a Balrog or something, or a Nazgul, or something where he actually has to go all out. And so he's conserving it, or it's dangerous, and maybe lighting acorns on fire and throwing them, it has a risk. And I think I kind of lean towards the second one in terms of the magic we see him use repeatedly. He turns a light on, he makes fancy fireworks, and most of the fireworks, I believe, are actually real physical fireworks. He just adds like a little flourish onto them. He's not necessarily doing full magical fireworks. And this tells me that Gandalf is really, he's really, because he's dialing it down. I think he's using benign magic mostly because there has to be some potential for magic to backfire. I think we even kind of see this with the Balrog and Saruman. They're not just firing off spells willy-nilly. Even though they're incredibly powerful, even though they clearly have magic, they do not use magic against people who, where it's not necessary. And again, this either implies that there's a limited supply and that they can't just, blast every hobbit they see, or that there's a risk that casting fireballs on hobbits could backfire. It could blow up in your hand or something like that. So what do you think? Why do you think Gandalf is stingy with magic? What do you think are the in-world mechanics of Middle-earth that cause this to happen? And in closing, I'm just going to read a little bit from this book. It says, like the other wizards, Gandalf's character reflected that of his master. Manwë's humility, flexibility, and tremendous restraint were evident in Gandalf. Compassionate and aware of others' needs, he adapted to rather than dominated situations. The Grey Pilgrim favored persuasion over power. This has been the What If Brigade, and I hope you have a great day.